Someone is thinking about you more than they should. And the hardest part is this: they know they cannot fully come toward you right now, not because the feeling is small, not because you imagine the connection, not because you are the only one carrying it, but because something around this bond makes it complicated. Maybe it is timing. Maybe it is distance. Maybe there are other people involved. Maybe there are responsibilities, promises, family pressure, or a life they have already built and do not know how to change. Yet even with all of that standing between you, they still think of you. More than they admit, more than they show, more than they are comfortable with. Take a breath before you continue, because this is not about fantasy. It is about the kind of connection that looks quiet on the outside, but feels heavy underneath. The person who came into your mind when you saw this title did not appear there by accident. Something in you already knows who this is. Logic may tell you to stop thinking about it. You may even tell yourself that nothing can happen, so there is no point in feeling anything. But some connections do not disappear simply because they are inconvenient. Some bonds enter your life and disturb the version of you that was trying to stay comfortable. This person feels that disturbance too. They may continue with their routine. They may go to work, spend time with others, smile when expected, and act as though everything is under control. But control is not peace. When they are alone, when the noise fades, your memory returns. Sometimes it is a song, a place, a sentence, a silence that feels familiar. And suddenly, there you are again. Then comes the question they keep avoiding. Why do I still feel this? That question has become heavy because what they feel for you does not fit neatly into the life they are living. It does not obey the rules they have tried to follow. It does not stay quiet simply because they tell themselves it should. That is what makes this connection feel restricted. Not because there is nothing there, because there is too much there, too much recognition, too much emotional charge, too much truth beneath words that were never fully spoken. And this is where the first truth begins. They are fighting themselves because of this connection. They are fighting the part of them that wants to reach out, the part that wants to know how you are, the part that wants to hear your voice again, the part that wonders what would happen if they stopped pretending this bond was ordinary. But another part steps in. The cautious part, the afraid part, the part that says, you cannot go there, the part that reminds them of consequences. So they stay in the middle, close enough to feel you, far enough to deny it. That middle place is exhausting. It is where someone checks your profile, but does not message, thinks about what they would say, then decides silence is safer, remembers a conversation and smiles before guilt pulls the smile away. They are not relaxed about you. They are controlled about you, and there is a difference. Relaxed means the feeling is light. Controlled means the feeling is strong enough to require management. That is exactly what they are doing. Managing it, pushing it down, distracting themselves, trying to convince themselves that time will make it disappear. But time does not erase what has not been faced. It only gives it more room to echo. Understand this clearly. Silence does not always mean absence. Sometimes silence means someone is standing too close to a truth they are not ready to touch. They know that if they speak too honestly, something may open, and they are afraid they will not be able to close it again. That is why they hold back, not because you mean nothing, because you mean something they cannot easily explain. There may be commitments involved. There may be circumstances that make direct movement impossible right now. Maybe one of you is not free. Maybe both of you are carrying lives that cannot simply be rearranged overnight. That is what makes it painful. The feeling is real, but the path is unclear. And when a person feels something real in a situation where they cannot freely act, the emotion turns inward. It becomes restlessness, overthinking, unexpected memories, a heaviness they cannot explain. You become the silent comparison, not because they are trying to replace anyone with you, but because you awakened a part of them that had been sleeping. You made them feel seen, and once someone feels deeply seen, they cannot return to shallow comfort without noticing the difference. That is why they keep thinking about you, not only because they want you, but because you represent a truth they have not fully lived. You represent honesty, emotional risk, a version of themselves that feels more alive. And that kind of exposure frightens people who have survived by staying controlled. Maybe they spent years choosing the safe answer, years doing what was expected, years building a life that looked steady from the outside. Then you appeared, maybe quietly, maybe without even trying, and something in them woke up. At first, they probably did not understand it. Maybe they only noticed you, then respected you, then trusted you, then started looking for you in small ways. Your words stayed with them longer than they should have. Your presence affected their mood. Your absence felt louder than expected. And somewhere along the way, you became someone they could not easily forget. That scared them, because forgetting would have been convenient. Forgetting would have made life easier. But they cannot fully return to who they were before. Not after feeling this. This is why the energy between you may feel strange, warm one moment, distant the next, close without explanation, then suddenly unavailable. That push and pull is not always a game. Sometimes it is an inner battle spilling into behavior. They move toward the feeling, then remember the risk. They soften, then protect themselves. They want closeness, then fear what closeness would demand. So the connection remains suspended, not ended, not fulfilled, suspended. And suspended emotions are difficult to carry because they never fully resolve. They live in the body as tension, in the mind as questions, in the heart as unfinished sentences. This person has unfinished sentences about you. Things they wanted to say but swallowed. Things they almost admitted but covered with ordinary words. Things they felt but lacked the courage to name. You may have sensed that too. You may have felt there was more behind their eyes than behind their words. More beneath the surface than either of you acknowledged. But here is the part you must be mature enough to hear. A restricted connection is not automatically destiny. Do not romanticize pain so much that you confuse limitation with proof. Yes, this connection may be real. Yes, they may think about you. Yes, the emotion may be powerful. But powerful emotions still require honest action to become something healthy. Without honesty, even a deep connection can become a wound. Without clarity, even love can become confusion. Without responsibility, even the strongest bond can hurt everyone involved. That is why this situation needs truth, not fantasy. You cannot live on signs forever. You cannot build your emotional life around what someone feels but refuses to face, because feelings alone are not enough. A person can feel deeply and still choose silence. A person can care and still remain unavailable. A person can be drawn to you and still not be ready to stand in the truth of that connection. That is painful, but it is real, and realism protects you. The second truth is this. This connection did not only come to pull you toward them, it came to wake something inside you. After this person entered your life, something changed in you too. Maybe you started seeing love differently. Maybe ordinary attention stopped impressing you. Maybe surface-level conversations began to feel empty. Maybe you realized you wanted more than comfort and routine. You began to understand what it feels like to be recognized. Not just liked, recognized. There is a difference. Being liked feels pleasant. Being recognized can change you. It touches a deeper place. And once that happens, you do not easily settle for emotional noise again. That is why this connection may have sharpened your standards. You may have become less patient with mixed signals, less willing to explain your worth, less interested in relationships where you have to shrink yourself. That is not obsession. That is awakening. But awakening is not always comfortable. Sometimes it begins with longing. Sometimes it begins with a connection that cannot fully happen yet. Sometimes it begins with someone who shows you what depth feels like and forces you to confront why you accepted less before. This person may have awakened your heart, but your job is not to lose yourself in waiting. Your job is to understand what the awakening is asking from you. Maybe it is asking you to become more honest. Maybe it is asking you to stop accepting emotional crumbs. Maybe it is asking you to trust your own perception. Maybe it is asking you to stop confusing longing with direction. Maybe it is asking you to love yourself enough not to chase what is unavailable. Because a connection can be meaningful without becoming your whole life. That is important. Do not make one person the center of your becoming. They may be part of the story. They are not the whole story. Your growth belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. Your future belongs to you. If this bond is meant to become something real, reality will require more than feeling. It will require choices, clear ones, honest ones, adult ones. It will require someone to stop hiding behind timing. Someone to face the consequences of truth. Someone to act with emotional maturity. Until then, the healthiest thing you can do is keep living, not waiting, not chasing signs, not pausing your life for someone who has not yet found the courage to act. Keep living, keep becoming clear, keep choosing what gives you peace. Because if this person ever comes toward you, they should meet someone whole, not someone drained by waiting. And if they never come, you should still have yourself. That is the point. You do not lose by becoming stronger. You only lose when you abandon yourself for an unfinished possibility. This person is still affected by you, but they are also afraid of what honesty would cost, afraid of disrupting what is familiar, afraid of discovering that the life they built no longer matches who they are becoming. And perhaps most of all, afraid that if they come closer to you, they will no longer be able to lie to themselves, because you make the truth harder to ignore. That is your effect on them. Your presence has become a mirror, and not everyone is ready to stand before a mirror that honest. Some people would rather keep the old life intact than admit they have outgrown it. Some would rather stay loyal to expectation than risk becoming fully alive. So they hold back, but holding back does not make them free. It only makes the feeling quieter on the outside and heavier on the inside. One part of them continues with routine. Another part keeps returning to you. One part says, "Be sensible." Another says, "But this felt real." That division is not peace. It is conflict. And conflict eventually demands movement. Not always toward a relationship. Sometimes toward honesty. Sometimes toward letting go of an illusion. Sometimes toward finally admitting what has been missing. Until then, you may feel waves. Moments where the connection feels alive. Moments where everything feels silent. Moments where you sense them close. Moments where you wonder if you imagined it all. That is the emotional pattern of something unresolved. But unresolved does not mean you should suffer endlessly. You can acknowledge the bond without worshiping it. You can feel the connection without letting it control you. You can care deeply without handing someone power over your peace. That is the balance. And that balance is where your strength returns. The stronger version of you asks better questions. Not, do they feel it? But, are they free enough to honor it? Not, do they miss me? But, can they meet me honestly? Not, is this connection real? But, is this connection healthy for me right now? Those questions protect you, because the danger of a restricted connection is not only heartbreak. The danger is becoming addicted to possibility. Possibility gives enough hope to stay attached, but not enough clarity to feel safe. Do not let that happen. You deserve clarity. You deserve peace. You deserve a love that can stand in daylight, not only exist in hidden feelings and silent tension. That does not mean this bond is false. It means truth must eventually become livable. If it cannot be lived, then it must be understood, honored, and released from the place where it controls you. That is maturity. To say, this meant something, but I will not destroy myself trying to force it into form. There is power in that. And strangely, that is often what affects them most. When you stop chasing, stop needing proof, and stop arranging your emotions around their uncertainty, something changes. They feel the absence of your reaching. They feel that you are no longer waiting in the same way. They feel that you are becoming less available to confusion. That can wake them up more than any message, because as long as you keep reaching, they can keep hiding. But when you return to yourself, they must face what their silence has created. And if they are unwilling to move from feeling into truth, then their silence becomes the answer. Not the answer you wanted, but the answer that protects you. This connection is not only about romance. It is about identity. They are being asked whether they will keep living behind fear. You are being asked whether you will keep abandoning yourself for uncertainty. That is the real test. Not whether they think about you. They do. Not whether the bond has meaning. It does. The real question is whether meaning becomes maturity, whether emotion becomes honesty, whether longing becomes action, because a beautiful ache is still an ache, and you cannot live there forever. Eventually, the soul asks for peace. Eventually, the heart stops being impressed by intensity and starts asking for safety. Maybe this person will meet you there one day. Maybe they will become brave enough to speak honestly. Maybe they will clear what needs to be cleared. Maybe they will not. And you must be strong enough for both possibilities. You cannot build your future around someone else's courage. Their courage belongs to them. Your healing belongs to you. If they choose truth, let their actions prove it. If they choose fear, let that show you where they are. Either way, do not stop becoming yourself, because this connection may have awakened you, but it is not supposed to imprison you. It is supposed to make you more alive, more honest, more aware, more devoted to the truth of your own heart. The connection touched something real, and what is real does not always leave quickly, even when people deny it, even when they stay away, even when they choose silence. But remembering is not enough. Love must become responsible. Many people want the feeling without the responsibility, the warmth without the difficult choices, the comfort without the honesty required to protect another person's heart. Do not accept that. If someone feels deeply for you, they must also respect deeply. If someone is drawn to you, they must also be careful with you. If someone cannot be with you, they should not keep you emotionally trapped for their comfort. That is not love. That is emotional selfishness. So keep your eyes open. Do not demonize them. But do not excuse everything either. They may be struggling, they may be torn, but you are human too. You deserve steadiness. You deserve clarity. You deserve not to be kept in a half-lit room, wondering what you mean to someone who refuses to speak plainly. This person may be consumed by thoughts of you, but being consumed is not the same as being ready. They may miss you, compare others to you, wonder what life would look like if things were different. Carry your memory like a hidden flame, but until they bring truth into action, that flame remains private. And private flames cannot warm a real relationship. They only burn inside the person carrying them. Let them carry what they refuse to clarify. That is not cruelty. That is consequence. You are allowed to step back from confusion. You are allowed to keep your heart open without leaving it unprotected. You are allowed to say, I feel this, but I will not lose myself inside it. Because the moment you stop begging life to turn this connection into what you want, you become free enough to see what it actually is. Maybe it is a future. Maybe it is a lesson. Maybe it is both. But until reality speaks through choices, your task is simple. Live truthfully. Do not chase. Do not freeze. Do not build fantasies to cover the absence of action. Let reality speak. Reality always speaks eventually, through choices, through courage, through clarity, through whether peace grows or anxiety grows, through whether love makes you more whole or more broken. Watch that, because your body knows, your heart knows. Your nervous system knows when something is nourishing and when something is only intense. Intensity can feel like destiny when you are emotionally hungry, but peace is what tells you something can last. So do not only ask whether the connection is strong. Ask whether it brings peace. Ask whether it brings honesty. Ask whether it allows you to respect yourself. Ask whether it expands your life or traps it inside waiting. Those are the questions that protect your future. And if this person is truly meant to meet you in a real way, they will eventually answer those questions too. Not with poetry, not with silence, not with hidden longing, with decisions, with clarity, with responsibility. Until then, let the connection teach you without letting it control you. Let it open your heart without making you careless. Let it remind you of what depth feels like without costing you your peace. Your life is happening now, not in their hesitation, not in their secret thoughts, not in a future they may or may not choose. Now, they may be thinking of you tonight. They may be feeling the ache. They may be realizing that you are not someone they can easily forget. But ask yourself something honest. Are you thinking of yourself with the same devotion? Are you protecting your own heart with the same intensity you use to understand theirs? Are you giving yourself the love you keep hoping they will finally show? Maybe that is the real message here. Maybe this connection came not only to reveal their hidden feelings, but also your hidden strength. The strength to feel deeply without losing your center. The strength to care without chasing. The strength to understand without excusing. The strength to wait for truth, not just attention. The strength to choose peace, even when the heart still remembers. That is where your power is, not in whether they miss you, not in whether they think about you, not even in whether this connection has meaning. Your power is in what you do with that meaning. Do you use it to grow or to stay stuck? You are not waiting for someone to decide your worth. You are not incomplete because someone is afraid. You are not forgotten because they are silent. You are simply standing in a complicated truth. And complicated truths require grounded hearts. So stay grounded. Let them think. Let them feel. Let them face themselves. Let them decide whether they are willing to become honest. But you must keep becoming free, because when you stop being emotionally available to uncertainty, everything changes. They can no longer find comfort in knowing you are waiting. They must either grow or remain where they are. And if they remain where they are, you will still move forward. That is not the end of love. That is the beginning of self-respect. The connection may still be there. The thoughts may still come. The silence may still carry meaning, but you are no longer required to suffer simply because.